like about 2 weeks on a specific date, I'll be releasing a video about one of my allergic reactions that I had, and it was a major one too. 7 years ago from yesterday, on Friday, April 5th, 2013, at 12:30 p.m., I had my worst allergic reaction. I was gonna make a video yesterday about this, but well, then I said no and I hit the snooze button. Anyway, let me provide some context for this whole story. Now, if you've seen my allergy video, of course you've watched it, then you would know that I have severe allergies to very many things. But worst of all are my peanut allergies. Usually when they test me for my other food allergies, they take little drops of oil from each of my allergens and they put it on the tips of these little needles and then they like stab me in the back with it just below the surface of my skin. And then they kind of measure the bumps that happen afterwards to see how allergic I really am. They can't do this with peanuts because I might literally die. Anyway, with that said and done, let's jump right into the story. So it was in the cafeteria at Lane School in 5th grade where I took my first bite into a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Now, my estimate is that many of you probably think that I am either blind or very, very dumb. But let me explain myself and stuff. I didn't know it was peanut butter when I first looked at it. Oh wait, I realize that makes me sound even more dumb. But again, I have an explanation for that too. There is a company that makes imitation peanut butter that looks, smells, tastes, feels like peanut butter. Exactly. And there is just no way to tell the difference between the two, except that one is bad for Jordan and the other one is not bad for Jordan. Now, there must have been a mix-up or something, because somehow I ended up with a sandwich full of peanut butter. Now, I took a bite, and immediately I started feeling my throat start to tingle. Now, that right there should have set off like millions of red alarms in my brain, but for some reason I thought, maybe it's all in my imagination. And so me, with my 40,000 IQ, took a second bite. And then of course it got worse because it was peanut butter, and that was when I realized, okay, time to go. So I took my half-eaten sandwich and threw it on the table. Ow! And so I took my half-eaten sandwich and I threw it on the table, and then I sprinted out of the cafeteria and down the hall. So I was running down the hallway, right? And there's a teacher who just kind of steps in the middle and tries to block my way, like, no running in the halls. But of course I wasn't having any of that, and so I did some weird cool like jiu-jitsu moves and ducked under their arm and kept running. And so I make a beeline straight for the nurse's office. I barge in and I say, nurse, I just ate a peanut butter sandwich and I'm having an allergic reaction. Now immediately she springs into super action mode and she says, why don't you lie down and rest for a little bit, dear? Cause like that would work or something. You know, if I'm having a severe allergic reaction, just lying down and relaxing might just help it go away. Then I vomited twice in a row until finally she was like, okay, it's EpiPen time. 3 things you should know about EpiPens. First, it has a very, very small needle. Second, you have to stab it directly into your thigh. And third, if it doesn't pierce your skin, it's not gonna work. Now, I was wearing some pretty thick jeans that day, which means that the needle had a chance of not reaching my skin. And so the nurse asked me to take off my jeans. Huh? Guys, if you think you've been embarrassed before, you have no idea what you're talking about. I'm just standing there with no pants in front of the school nurse, and I am so embarrassed that I don't even feel the needle. Now, as I'm putting on my pants and also trying to restore my dignity, the nurse calls my dad and lets him know what's happening. And so he eventually arrives at the school and he kind of sits next to me as I'm lying there on the bed. Now the paramedics finally arrive and they just start doing all their checkups on me, right? And while they're doing this, a little 3rd grader walks in and is like, nurse, I have a bloody nose. Now there's like a second where everyone's just kind of staring at each other, and I'm thinking, nobody cares about your bloody nose. Now apparently the nurse is thinking the same thing because she just starts pushing him out of the room like, nope, we're closed. So the paramedics finally finish all their tests, and then they ask me to get on a stretcher. What? It's not like I can't walk or anything. I can walk perfectly fine. I could sprint if I wanted to. My EpiPen only lasts 20 minutes, but during these 20 minutes, I also have no symptoms, and so I'm feeling fine as well. But I also realized that these guys probably knew what they were talking about, and so I got on the stretcher, and they started carrying me out into the hallway. And in this hallway was a little girl, and she just froze in place like. So I did the only reasonable thing. I wait. So the paramedics put me in the back of the ambulance facing backwards, and we just take off with their sirens going like beedo, beedo. Another thing about me, I get extremely motion sick. So being in the back of an ambulance facing backwards going 75 miles an hour while my EpiPen is starting to wear off is not good. Meanwhile, there's a guy in the back with me who's asking me like 4 trillion questions, such as what's your name, what's your parents' name, what's your address, what's your social security number. And I'm just lying there trying not to throw up all over him. You know what I realized now? As they were carrying me on the stretcher out towards the ambulance, I should have said, shotgun! So we finally arrive at the hospital and they start plugging me into all of their machines, and I start feeling really, really tired. Now apparently during this time my skin was turning very pale, which is a very bad sign, because that's a sign of anaphylactic shock, which is what most people who have reactions actually die from. So while I'm trying to fall asleep, everybody else is thinking that I'm just about to die. And so my mom, who arrived at the hospital at about the same time we did, just keeps shaking me awake like, Jordan, what's your name? Where are you? Do you know where you are? Now that I think about it, that was probably a good idea. And so eventually it gets to a point where the doctors are getting really scared. And so they say, okay, it's time for an IV. Now let me give you an idea as to how big this needle was. Let's say this is an EpiPen needle, right? Then this is an IV. So for those of you who didn't already know, what an EpiPen does is it gives your body a shot of adrenaline. You know what else also gives your body a shot of adrenaline? Knowing that they're about to be stabbed in the arm with this thing. So newsflash, I'm not tired anymore, and I sit up straight and all the blood just returns to my face. So I'm practically trembling with fear as they hold out my arm and stab my skin with the needle and miss the vein. Which means they're gonna have to try again. What was that I was saying about a shot of adrenaline? And so they hold out my other arm and put the needle in, and they miss again. And so finally they say, hold out your hand. And so at this point I'm just like, and so they put the needle directly in the back of my hand. And finally they hit the vein. But I've already gotten like the equivalent of 3 shots of adrenaline, and so I'm feeling perfectly okay at this point. My condition kind of stabilized after that, and so I stayed pretty okay for the rest of the day. And so I watched like Spy Kids and also did crossword puzzles, and by the end of the day they let me go from the hospital. Anyway, that was the story of my worst allergic reaction. Now, even though I can laugh about a few things looking back, in the moment, there was nothing funny about it. I actually thought that I was going to die at some points, and it was so scary for me and my entire family. So guys, if you have someone who has severe food allergies, take them seriously. They're not a joke, because they can actually send someone to the hospital and possibly even kill them. I hope this video helped you guys realize just how serious food allergies can be, and hopefully you guys will take it more seriously if you aren't already. Thanks for watching, guys. This video took a very long time for me to make. Sorry I couldn't get it out until today. The footage from earlier in this video is actually from yesterday morning, so that's why the dates are all off that I referred to. I will see you guys tomorrow. I'll still make sure to release something tomorrow, and yeah, bye guys.